I'm Sean Clay, and I'm an actor. I'm Sean Clay. I grew up in Georgia, born and raised in the sticks of Georgia. Middle of nowhere, you're more likely to hit a deer than another person if you're driving, right? Um, yeah, was everything from a personal trainer to a correction officer to all these things before I decided I wanted to be a performer. I was actually in school to be a nurse. I was going to be a registered nurse anesthetist, and that was the idea at the time anyway. And I remember going over to my uncle's house, and I changed my major like umpteen times. They're like, Sean doesn't know what he wants to do. But went over to my uncle's house. I'm like, no, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm settled on this. And he's like, okay, cool. Do you love it? And I was like, I love the money. The money's gonna be great. These people make a lot of money. And he goes, well, if you wouldn't do it for free, then you shouldn't be doing it. And that was the first time that I thought to myself, well, what would I do for free? And that's how performing came about. Probably the first one. The first time I was on a television show, and I look at the performance now, I'm like, I wasn't that great. But I look at that performance, and I got to perform next to someone that I had grown up watching, and one of the nicest people, and I was super nervous, I remember, and I kept saying in my head over and over again, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. And she was extremely accepting, and helped me calm down and helped me get into the zone, and I had a great time. So that was probably my very first time was probably my favorite moment in my career. When I'm on stage, whether it be a stand-up comedian or whether it be theater, that kind of immediacy that you get right when that performance is done or while you're doing the performance, that is a fantastic feeling. I think it just kind of fuels the fire for you to keep going and keep going and be a lot more integrated and plugged into what you're doing and to put on a great performance. So great. My definition of the work is everything you do prior to them calling action. So it is the research, it is learning how does my character walk, how does my character talk, who's my character's family, what is my character's motivation, how does what was written on the paper correlate to who I am as a person, and how do we make that one? You have to lean into how people see you versus where you necessarily want to be initially. I mean, you get to a certain space, if you're going to be operating in a way where you're looking for people to hire you for work, hire you for jobs, you have to start operating in a place of how do people see me versus how I perceive myself. And I think that was probably some of the best advice that I got early on. It wasn't put as kind as I'm putting it now, but yeah, that's initially. I mean, lean into how people see you versus how you perceive yourself, and that's an experiment in itself. Ask your friends, how do you see me? Really, man? This is how we grew up? No. My 10-year-old self, I think I'd be pretty proud, man. I do. I think I'd be pretty proud of how I turned out. I never thought like I tell people all the time, I wasn't supposed to be here. I was supposed to be probably at this point, kids, family, house. I say that as if that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, but I definitely would have a different life, I think, or my thought process at that particular point in time. the more things go on, the longer life gets, and the further I go along in this thing. 100%. I think it becomes what you make it. I think when you let go of expectations of what you believe it's supposed to look like, you're gonna be a lot happier. Really just embrace life for what it is, embrace this career for what it is, and know that things are gonna work out. Anything that you keep pushing at and you keep chipping away at, it's gonna give and it's gonna start moving in your direction. That's something I wish I could have told myself, some years ago. I think I would have relaxed a lot more. It might be like a cliche answer, but it's like for you to be happy, something has to be happening, right? We can say my girlfriend makes me happy, right? And I can say my job makes me happy, and I can say my new car makes me happy, and I can say my home makes me happy. But if you get evicted, if your girlfriend dumps you, if your car gets repossessed, if you get fired, and all that's gone, where's your happiness? It's gone. So you have to wake up joyful in just your pure existence. Every morning, I get to do this again. I get to live the life that I want to live. I get to breathe. I get to be healthy. I get to, move and interact with people that I care about. I'm joyful, man. I'm joyful. Yeah. I've wanted to quit quite a few times. My barometer is always, it's I think every couple years I probably ask myself, all right, Sean, is there anything else that you would want to do? And if ever the answer is yes, I'll probably go do that. But it's that hasn't came up. I can't imagine doing and enjoying anything else. And also too, it's extremely beneficial to make sure that you're taking the time to look back and see just how far you've come, because that shows you what your progress is and how much more quickly you can move down the road going forward. So by interacting with people on a genuine level, I don't know. I think if you're a lot of performers are to a certain extent extroverts, and you get a lot from just genuinely interacting with people outside of industry. At least for me, I don't want to know what project you're working on. I want to know how you're doing as a person. I much rather a human connection. It's so dry out here, man. It's so dry. I'm from the East Coast, so I'm used to humidity, and a lot of people don't like it, but it's great for your skin. You don't wake up thirsty. I probably change that. That in human interaction. For as many people as there are in this city, there's not enough genuine human interaction. So my end goal was always to have my own studio. People say, like, where do you want to be? My thing is not necessarily thinking about what's the next stoplight, but what's 100 stoplights down the line. And the end goal was always to be, eventually, God willing, a Sony Pictures or a Paramount, or something along those lines. But August 5th Pictures was birthed a lot earlier than I thought it would have been, due to the pandemic. I can either sit at home and twiddle my thumbs, or I can create content that I like, things that I've been wanting to do for a while, and start moving in the direction of my end goal. I think the industry's moving in a wonderful direction. I think people that are afraid of change believe the industry's moving in a wrong direction or a bad direction. What was this medium? This medium started out as us just telling stories verbally, right? And then it turned into the radio, and then that turned into moving pictures, and then that turned into color, and that turned into, all these things. And it's been a constant evolution, and whether it be in the theaters or whether it be at home where they're telling long form stories, as long as you get to tell the type of stories that you want to tell, you're moving in the right direction, right? It's always going to change. It's not done changing. It's going to continue to change. What we're doing 20, 30 years from now is not going to be what we're doing today. So yeah, it's absolutely moving in the right direction. More people are working than ever now. I believe success is relative. So like for me, where I am now, with the amount of work that I've had in my career, I'm successful. It may not be, successful by Will Smith's standards, but for me and where I came from, like a two-light town, me saying I wanted to be an actor is like me saying I wanted to be an astronaut. So for my family to be able to turn on the television and see my face, to be able to pop in a DVD where my face is on the cover, and say, okay, that's my son, that's my brother. That's success for me. Success is relative, is what you choose to accomplish, and what you decide is your success. I don't know. I can only speak from my perspective, but I don't necessarily yearn to lose my anonymity. At the same time, I don't want to miss out on any blessings. So I'm not saying that, if they ever decide to make a black Captain America, I wouldn't step up for it. But yeah, I mean, it's I think just the desire to be famous, I think that's well overrated. Fame is a byproduct of you being successful. I definitely want to be as successful as I possibly can be, but yeah, fame itself is overrated for sure. I don't know. I'd say my biggest fear is probably missing out on family moments. I think you get into the rhythm of pursuing your career, or growing your career in whatever form that takes, and you miss out on a lot of family moments. They're really proud. They're pretty proud. I mean, initially starting out, it's a side eye just like everybody else gives you, and until they actually see that you've done what you said you wanted to do, to an extent that satisfies what they feel is, you've kind of made it in their eyes, which is really wonderful. So they're probably my biggest supporters at this point. Always asking when the next thing is or how this audition went. And it's like, don't ever tell your family about auditions, because they will aggravate the crap out of you 3 months later. How was that audition? It's done. I didn't get it. So that's how that's going. But yeah, really wonderful, really supportive now. I had the incredible opportunity to portray Martin Luther King Jr. in a film called Behind the Movement. I mean, the amount of layers that go into portraying someone of that caliber, and it not feeling like like an impression. It's a lot, but even just to be able to get to know him as a younger version, and not the massive charismatic Martin Luther King Jr. that we all have kind of baked into our brains, was really incredible. LeBron James goes to practice. It's if you don't know what you don't know. So if you decide that you are just so good that you don't need to go to class, maybe you are. For some people it works out that way, but I think it depends on what type of longevity you want in your career. And if you believe you're good now, instruction can make you great. So there's a lot that you can take from the people around you. There's a lot that you can take from people that have done what you're trying to do, that have been where you're trying to go. And if you neglect that advice, I think, is a detriment to yourself. Even if you're already really good, you could always benefit from learning from someone who's been there. Life is better when you don't take it so seriously. I could say that my hope for you is that you are happy and joyful and you are exactly where you want to be, that you have loving and supportive people around you, and that you have a lot of motivation and not but if you have a lot of motivation and perseverance to continue to move forward and continue to strive towards your goals, whatever that may be at that particular point in time.